Hi, this is the third tutorial that we're doing for Chapter 9, and in this tutorial I'm going to show you what to do when you're plotting 2 points or 2 sets of data using a scatter plot, and the company's returns that you want to be on the x-axis have turned up on the y-axis. You're going to do this a lot. You'll run into this I'm sure more than once when you're regressing something against the S&P 500. The S&P 500 needs to always be on the x-axis. I'm doing it on this particular stock between Macy's and Johnson & Johnson because my S&P keeps coming up on the x-axis, and so I'm not able to show you how to change it. But I can show you how to change it here, so that's what we're going to do. So when you're going to start with a scatter plot, you highlight the data that you want, right? And then you say that you want a chart, and that you want a scatter plot. And when we're doing regression analysis, we just want this marked scatter. So we select marked scatter. I'm going to get rid of this series so that I can see a little bit more of my chart, and I will enlarge it. All right, when you end up with a scatter plot like this, the first thing that you want to do is figure out which set of data is on which axis, and then you want to label those axes. So I added a new set of information here. I added my maximum and minimum values, and I used the functions max and min. Give you my get formula there. So that's going to be the max of C11 to C12, and then here's going to be equals the minimum of C11 to C12. So I'm going to look over here with Macy's, because see how it's got a maximum return of 147 and a minimum return of -60. It's got a wider range. It makes it easier for me to go over here and look and see, all right, who has 150? Where is that company on? Macy's, with its positive return of 150 and its negative return of 160, is graphed here on the x-axis. On the y-axis is Macy's with its maximum return of 35% and its minimum return of 16%. So what if I've done this and I'm doing a regression against the S&P and my S&P is on the Y? I don't want my S&P on the Y, I need my S&P on the X. That's what's going to make our regression analysis give us actual information. So what we need to do is change the axes that this data is plotting on. So I go to my plot area and I right click. I go down to select data, and this other box comes up. Well, what I'm going to say is, here it's telling me that we've got one series of data, and I'm going to remove that. And here we've got a blank graph. And so that's fine. So I'm going to add another one. So I'm going to go here to X values. And I'm going to select what I want on the X value. So I had Macy's on the X value, but I want Macy's on the Y. So I'm going to click in the cell X value, and I'm going to go over here, and I'm going to select Johnson & Johnson's returns, put them on the X. I'm going to come over here and I'm going to select Macy's returns and put them on the Y. And then I'm just going to say OK. So here we go with Macy's returns on the y-axis and Johnson & Johnson's returns on the x-axis. The next thing I need to do is add a label. So I'm going to go to my chart layout, and I'm going to go to my horizontal, well, let's get out of here. Let's go back home. Click. Don't watch while I try to figure out what I'm looking for. Okay, here's what I want. Forget about chart layout. I want the chart quick layout. Makes it easier. So here, right here where it says axis title, that's my y-axis. And I'm going to click in that box and I'm going to say, okay, this is Macy's, MACY''S, because that's what's on my y-axis. And down here on my x-axis, I'm going to have Johnson & Johnson, which I'm going to call J&J. I'm going to delete this legend, and I'm going to come up here and I'm going to give us a title, and my title is going to be Regressing Macy's Returns Against Johnson & Johnson. Then if I want to plot my trend line, I take my mouse and I click on one plot, and then I right click and I say to insert a trend line. My box comes up. Sometimes it'll come up as type or line. What you want is options. And if it comes up as options, what you want to do, while my phone rings in the background, is display the equation on the chart and also display the R value on the chart. You tell it's okay, And then, while you hope somebody else in your family answers the phone, you slide that equation and r squared value over into an area where it's not being intersected by a line. And there you've got a trend line, and you've got your data, and you were able to switch your axes so that you can get the value that you want on the right axis, so that when you need to have S&P on the X axis, you'll have S&P on the X. Good luck. Email me if you have any trouble.